Brown Park podcast is brought to you by Grow Clinics. You can go to growclinics.com.au/Brown Park to book a free consultation or for more information. Hello, mate.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Very, very special guest on the show today, and this man's story is one that you are just going to want to sit back and take in.
Massively. I think I'm nervous that I'll cry through this one, but I'm sure that we're all going to come out grateful at the other end.
No, I won't cry because the meds have kicked in, so that doesn't work for me.
You're numb the whole time. See, but I'm an emotional being.
Look, our guest is Dinesh Palipana. His story is amazing. Hang around. He's coming up here on the Brown Park podcast.
The Brown Park podcast.
Question.
Go.
How many cars have you crashed in your life?
A lot. Jesus. Oh, look, let's say I'm going to round down and I'm going to say like 10.
I ask this because I know that you've had a couple of incredible accidents in your life and you've managed to walk away unscathed.
I've been very fortunate to be in stupid accidents through being an absolute idiot. And, look, I think it was way more good luck than good management.
You are, you're actually the definition of somebody who was a very, very, very fucking loose unit as a child and as a young adult, but has blossomed into the man that you are today.
Look at me. I am like a delicate little petal that took a while to bloom.
A delicate little petal.
That's me. Emotional, delicate. Go easy.
Special guest.
All right, today's guest is a doctor, a lawyer. He is the very first quadriplegic medical intern in Queensland. He is the second in Australia and the first with a spinal cord injury. And his life story is nothing short of phenomenal. And rather than me bleat on about it, I'm just going to bring him into the conversation. Here's Dinesh Palipana OAM. Hello and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's all right.
I'm intrigued now that you said I can swear on this podcast. I'm thinking, about what I can say.
Are you a swearer normally?
I'm not generally. I think it comes in waves.
Yeah,
seasons for some days. I might.
You're a doctor, so your bedside manner you can't really walk up to someone and go, "Hi, how the fuck are you?"
Oh, you're fucked, mate. No, sorry.
You can't do that.
And I said I wouldn't swear on this podcast, and yet here we are.
Yeah. But I want to go back. Okay, so you have, look, you've got a book out called Stronger, and I want to start off with, tell us the story of young Dinesh when you were born in what sound like Kandy.
Yeah.
It sounds like the most magical place of all, but it's Kandy, Sri Lanka.
I know. It was Kandy with a K, though, so it wasn't, I come to think of it, there wasn't too much candy there, which was a disappointment. But, my mum, who's a really, really important figure in my life, and I'm so grateful to have her, but she always gave me a good life. So I was always happy and I always felt protected. And so I had a really good childhood. But Sri Lanka, when I was born, it wasn't, and actually it still isn't an easy place for people to live.
Mm.
The three of us were here and I can see that our lights are on and we have the internet and we've probably all eaten today, which is great.
Probably too much.
Probably too much. But Sri Lanka today, the inflation is something like 40, 50, 60%. There's no fuel and people have to line up for days to get fuel. There's no electricity. There's no food. There's all these things. So, and back then things were difficult as well, in that there was a war. So there was a civil war between the Tamils and Sinhalese, and people were just killing each other. Hey, like it was so bad.
Mm.
I think it's understated how violent things were and how many people died. So in amongst that civil war, there was a political war as well.
Mm.
There was a communist uprising, and there was a guy who kind of modeled himself after Che Guevara. And Yeah, so that, and all these things were extremely violent. So when I was a kid, I've seen people being burnt alive in piles of tires.
So how long ago was this? Just how long ago are we talking?
This is, the war didn't actually end until sometime just before 2010.
Crazy.
The late 2000s, this ended. Like it was, man, people were getting blown up. There were, when the lockdowns happened, interestingly, for COVID, I always thought back to life in Sri Lanka because they had curfews all the time where you couldn't go out because the army was floating around or the rebels were around, and the lights were turned off because sometimes there were aerial bombings from little planes, and they didn't want people to see where the houses were. So when the lockdowns here happened, it didn't feel super alien to me because as a kid, I'd experienced all that.
Around.
But Sri Lanka I think we failed to appreciate how good a life we have because we don't have any of that. We can get around, and even simple things, like when we moved here, I could go to a school and any school would take me, but over there you had to bribe the principal to take you into a school, and it was.
Oh shit!
And there are beautiful roads, and the other thing I was talking to a friend about recently. Simple thing of being able to turn your tap on, fill a glass, and being able to drink it.
Yeah,
Sri Lanka, you can't. You got to boil your water before you drink it. So that was life. That was life when we grew up, and it was a hard life for a lot of people, and it's a very hard life for a lot of people now.
I think you need to talk to my kids because my daughter gets upset if she can't get Wi-Fi. So I think we need to hook you two up after this so she can really get a real perspective of what life can be like. That'd be good.
I even went to a school where the kids didn't have shoes and their houses didn't have running water or electricity or walls sometimes. So I always think back to that and think, man, I got shoes. I'm happy.
Yeah. So what age did you move out here?
On my 10th birthday, we landed here.
And what year was that?
1994. So I'm 38. And it was the first time I was on an airplane. So it's the first time I was out of the country. And it was just like magical for so many reasons, right?
Yeah.
Sitting on an airplane and I threw up the whole way. I was airsick. But we got to Sydney and I was like, oh my God, what an amazing place. Because you watch movies in Sri Lanka and it's like, you're like, wow, look at all these Western countries and these big high-rise buildings and everyone has a car and you just kind of admire all this stuff and it's kind of this thing that you see. And suddenly I was in Sydney and it was like a real city that I used to watch on TV or movies. And it was so beautiful. And actually one of the things is I've never been in a big supermarket until we got to Sydney.
Oh, wow.
So we went to Franklin's and I was wandering around. I'm like, oh my God, you can buy everything here. You can buy chocolate and you can buy Kinder eggs. You can buy magazines and pizzas and whatever you want.
I mean, it's great that you're still reflecting even now that all these years later. But if you don't mind me asking, how does a family in Sri Lanka be in a position to immigrate or migrate to Australia? Like, did your parents have to save for years to make that happen? How does it come about?
So I think one of the reasons why education is so important in countries like that. So when I was going to school, all these kids like studied so hard, right? They go home, they light up their candle and they study into the night because there's no other way out of that life and no other way out of that place unless you educate yourself and you get yourself into a position where you might have a professional job and you can migrate to another country. Mm-hmm. So for Australia, it was the same at the time. My dad was an engineer and Australia needed engineers. So there was a skilled migration program. And we applied, and then we ended up here by virtue of that.
Excellent.
And that's the reason how we ended up here. But yeah, we had to save a bunch of money, and we didn't realize until we got here that tens of thousands of Sri Lankan rupees is like $60. But
yeah. I like how you said that they, the students over there, they go home, they put on a candle and they study. Here they go home, light a joint, eat a bag of Doritos, have a beer.
Yeah, well, I moved to Byron Bay after that. So,
yeah. There you go. Oh, well.
Brown Pop.
I went to a reunion the other day.
A reunion? Okay.
And realised that half of my fellow classmates from my graduating year are bald or losing their hair.
Okay.
Yes. And it felt good not to be anymore.
How did that happen, we may ask?
Courtesy of our wonderful friends and sponsors of this podcast, Grow Clinics.
Oh, those guys. I hear they do great work.
Oh, look, I hated my hair. I hated my hairline and I hated everything about it. And then you went and got it done.
Indeed, I did. I took the plunge.
You did. And you went to Grow Clinics and you said, you have to go and check out these guys because they are amazing. And then when I saw the results, I'm like, I'm in, I'm done, I'm getting it done.
It's definitely a flow-on effect. Anyone that I speak to that have had similar hairlines to both of us are always full of questions and start entertaining the idea of going down that track.
And look, if you've ever thought of having it done, Grow Clinics are leading the way in hair loss treatments in Australia and New Zealand. They offer the most refined hair transplant technique available with natural results guaranteed. We are shining beacons of example of that. Go and get a free consultation. It's very easy. You can go to the website growclinics.com.au/Brown Park. Click on that. It'll take you straight to the consultation process where you can plug in your details, and it is absolutely free. growclinics.com.au/Brown Park to book a free consultation or for more information.
Brown Pop.
Your life, obviously, in Australia, you were studying to become a doctor. At what point did you go, that this is the profession I want to do?
yeah, actually, I was never one of those guys or girls that grew up wanting to be a doctor. Ever.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to do all these other things. But never, ever, 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 ever a doctor. Purpose is so important to us, like purpose and having something that resonates with us and having something that we enjoy is so important. And I didn't have that when I finished high school. So I decided to study law because I just thought it'd be a good job and whatever. But it wasn't like, I love the law and I want to be a lawyer. And so none of that. But when I started going through law school, I think I wasn't really in touch with myself and I didn't know myself. And I don't think, there's that point in life where you suddenly realize who you are and you live as you. But until then, you're trying to find this identity and trying to find this thing to fill your life with. And I think I've ended up getting into this really superficial life where I was just thinking about the future and how I could make a lot of money or buy a nice car and where, all those things that I thought equated to success.
Yeah.
But I actually just became depressed as a result. Like I ended up getting significant depression.
Really?
And yep. And depression is like such an insidious thing, because I was probably 20, 21 then, and it just crept up on me over a period of time. I just stopped enjoying the things I used to do. I started feeling sad, then I was anxious, and then I had panic attacks, and then sleep patterns were disturbed and all this stuff. And I was in the pits of depression. And it was so bad. And it was actually more paralyzing to me than the spinal cord injury is.
Wow. And you wouldn't have been speaking to anyone about it either. I imagine back then too. I mean, and this is why we do what we do now, because we suffered alone all those years ago. We didn't get to talk to anybody like we do now. It's not as, it's not as open to discuss. It wasn't as open to discuss between people as it is now.
You know what? I didn't even know what it was at the time. Like I didn't know what was happening to me. I started seeing a doctor, and I think I realized that, and these are the turning points in our lives, right? Like they say that it's an old saying that there's nothing beautiful without a struggle.
Yeah.
And it was through that when I started seeing my doctor, like my whole world changed. And I remember the day where I realized that, oh, damn, I might have come out of it. And I realized it was like such a precious feeling because I thought,
So good. Right.
Yeah, I feel normal and I can feel the world again. And so my whole world changed and I realized that my doctor changed my world. And I thought, man, I want to do that for people. And that's how I found medicine.
I had a similar experience where my doctor changed my life and discovered, like, I knew that I had it because it runs in my family. And I went to a doctor and he just happened to be on the board of the Black Dog at the time. And he's just gone, you are a textbook case. Here's what we're going to do to help you. And I remember the same thing the minute, like, I'll be medicated for the rest of my life. But I remember going, oh my God, there's color in the world again. I love it. I couldn't go on and help people in medicine because I'm dumb as a brick, but
radio.
And that's why you end up in radio. But I get why you would want to do that because I've since wanted to help people with depression because I can do that. I can talk you through it.
Man, that's amazing. But I love it that you say that you saw the color again because I felt the same way.
Yeah, it's like I've often described it as like when you've got depression and Dion, you've had small bouts of it, but I know I often called it like a fog. Like there's just this fog and it often feels like it's just sitting about here. And if I don't take my medication, that fog comes back down and it just clouds everything. And then once I take the medication, I can function as a human being again.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yep. Is that what you felt?
Yeah. Like I remember that moment where I felt, because I drove out of my garage, I reversed my car out, and suddenly I could see the green in the trees and the sun, and I could feel it on my skin. And oh man, it was.
Yeah. I love that. I'm getting goosebumps over here. That's so good.
Now, let's go through to what has made you now. Can you take us back to the day?
Yeah.
That changed your life.
The day. You never forget the day.
No.
Yeah. Oh, it's a day that will be etched in my heart forever. And I think like it's almost like the day I was reborn, I think. But it was the 31st of January, 2010. It was a Sunday from memory. I was driving back from visiting my parents' place. I was a medical student at the time. I was living in Gold Coast, going to med school here. And I used to go home on weekends just to see my mom and hang out and just to be a slob, really.
Was this going back to Byron Bay?
They lived in Brisbane then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The Valley. No, joking.
Yeah. So I visited them one weekend and I started driving back on that night, which was a Sunday night. And, you know, like even today, like every day, I think about sliding doors moments. Like, you know, can we really say that it's by chance that the three of us are here having this conversation? Like, so this Big Bang happened billions of years ago, and then suddenly, like by chance, these little microbes evolved in this earth, and then came to this perfect point where the three of us are. I don't know.
Yeah. Hang on. Didn't God create it? Wasn't there like an Adam and Eve? Is everything that I've been reading wrong?
Do not take the podcast there.
I have this big book over here that says that it was God. What?
I was going to say, oh God, but hey, how contradictory.
Yeah,
anyway,
no.
as you were,
Big Bang.
Well, whatever it might be,
yeah.
I don't know what it is, but like I sometimes wonder, like, geez, it's a pretty big stroke of probability for us to end up at this point. Right?
100%. Completely agree.
I think that day too, I just ended up leaving the house at a particular time through a series of events. Like I got delayed, I stayed to have dinner, and I did this and I did that, and I picked that particular time to leave the house. And I often used to stop on my way back from Brisbane to Gold Coast, I used to drive through Brisbane and stop at Mount Cootha I just found it like at night, you just sit up in the mountain, look over into Brisbane, and it kind of was a moment for me to center myself and just take stock. So often
it's a beautiful spot.
Oh, so good. So I often used to just stop there and look over into the city and see the lights sparkle and just think for a little bit before continuing the journey. And I was going to do that night, but I actually just didn't take the turn, and I veered off to go to Gold Coast. So I was like, okay, well, that's fine. And then I ended up at this particular stretch of highway at this particular time, and it had rained that day. So the road had wet areas. And then the particular stretch of road I ended up in had roadworks at some point as well. They weren't doing roadworks at that time, but so it was really dark, and I came up suddenly or very quickly to something that looked like a black puddle of water, oil. I don't know what it was, but as soon as I hit it, my car lost control and started spinning and spinning and spinning. And this is like somewhere between 80 to 100 kilometers per hour. And I was just like, oh man, it was pretty scary and violent.
Yeah.
And then the car went off the road, and there was a slanted embankment. Maybe I can't remember, but it was at an angle, and my car went up that, came back down, and the front of the car just smashed onto the highway, and then it started flipping through the air, front to back.
So you vividly remember all of this?
I was awake the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's flipping and flipping and flipping, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like things are flying around the cabin, things are exploding, things are loud. Luckily I was wearing a seatbelt, and I was just like, I'm screwed. I can't do anything now. But interestingly, I was at work recently, and there was a patient who had a car accident, and I was talking to this person, and we both connected by the fact that we both had car accidents, but we both made it a point that time seems to slow down when you're in a situation like that.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me too. And there was a point in time where I was literally upside down in the car, and I just thought, there is nothing more I can do about this now.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can control is the way I see this situation. And so I'm just going to have fun.
Yeah.
While the car's flipping.
Yeah.
So I've had the same sort. I mean, and when you finish on your story, the sliding doors made me talk about, I've rolled a car in a similar circumstance to this. So once you finish that, I'd like to see, we'll just have a chat about that after this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just what I did towards the end of the accident. I was just like laughing and carrying on and having a blast, because it's all I could do, right? And I think that's partly why I can talk about it as well, because like I don't really care. Like I was just having fun.
Do you remember anything flying past you going, oh, that shouldn't be there, or in that particular moment? And I know, like I can ask that because I know you've got a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
But do you remember anything about that moment, or you just remember, you know what, woohoo, let's do it?
You're on a ride at that moment, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. I was on a ride. I was actually very impressed that a laptop that I had was flying around the cabin and it survived.
Oh, wow.
So I won't mention the particular brand of it, but I was just very impressed that it lasted the whole saga, and I could use it again once I was in the hospital.
I just have this vision of you upside down going, oh, I thought I'd lost that. Damn it, there it was. Something to that effect.
Oh, man. Yeah. And then, but you know, the thing is, so I was having a blast, having an accident. But I stopped having fun when it landed, because the car landed upright. The car landed on the side of the road, both of which are probably fortunate things. And then I tried to get out of the car, and And that is when I realized that my fingers weren't working anymore and that I couldn't move and I couldn't feel my legs and I couldn't feel anything below the chest.
Holy crap.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you know in that moment that this is bad? I mean, being a med student, I would assume that you'd be processing this relatively quick in your mind. Did you know how bad it was at the time?
Yeah, I knew because like you learn, right, in med school, you're like, okay, spinal cord injury, cervical spinal cord injury, always be careful, always protect the spine, always be mindful of that, don't do any more damage. Like you learn and learn and learn and learn and learn. And I knew what had happened and I knew the severity of it. Like I knew that my life has now changed forever. From that point on, the challenges were going to be significant. And, I can't even begin to tell you what that feels like the sickening realization, like, because it happened in seconds, right? Like you're just this guy going about life and then within seconds that happens to you. I can't begin to tell you because there's no warning, there's no preparation. Bam, you're there.
Life is so fleeting; it can just change in an instant, and you've lived that. It's where do you even go? Where do you even go from there?
Yeah, I think the thing I realized though is I work in an emergency department today, right? And our department is actually the busiest in the country. And through the hallways and around the department, if you look up, there are screens hung up. And sometimes it'll start to flash and you'll hear an alarm go off. And there'll be something like it'll say like trauma or resuscitation or whatever. And you know when that is happening, that there is a critically ill person, or at least someone who we are worried is critically ill or critically injured has been brought in. And you know that some of those people may not survive. You know that some of those people has had a life-changing event where they'll never be the same again. What that buzzer reminds me every day when I'm at work is exactly that life is fleeting. And I wonder what that person did today. And I wonder whether they're happy with their life. And I wonder what they did. I wonder whether they told the people that they loved them before they left home that day. I wonder if they did that thing they wanted to do, like.
Absolutely. And do you find yourself telling the people you love them that you love them more now? Are you a lot more communicative now after the accident?
I think I definitely, I appreciate them so much more, and I am thankful to them so much more, and I'm thankful to the people around me. And but I think I'm also more grateful for life. Like I'm just grateful to wake up. I'm grateful to have all these things. I'm grateful because like, I just know, right. And nothing else matters apart from this moment in front of us. Like this moment where we're having this conversation, like that's a precious thing, right? Because I don't know, none of us know what's even we're not sure. We can't tell with certainty what things will be like in the next 3 hours, right? We don't.
Yeah. So you said you work in the busiest emergency ward in Australia, and that's the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Does that just mean the Gold Coasters do a lot of dumb shit? Like per head of population? Because it's only like 600,000 or 700,000 people live on the Gold Coast. And it's the busiest in the country. Do they do a lot of dumb shit?
There is certainly a lot of fascinating things that I have the privilege of being a doctor.
Round pop.
Hey, big shout out to our sponsors, Grow Clinics. I had a kitchen renovation done a while ago, and bear with me, this has a story, and it is going.
Where is this going? Okay.
And when they came out to our place, they showed us the old kitchen, and then in a 3D diagram, what our new kitchen would look like based on the space that we've got there. And we were sold on it. We went, that is the kitchen we want. Let's do it. I had the exact same experience when I went to grow clinics and they showed me where my new hairline would be. And when I saw the map of it, the Sharpie hairline, I've gone, I am in, sign me up.
Because when they draw that Sharpie hairline on, you're going, even if it's close to that Sharpie hairline, I'll be pumped. But the hairline that they draw is legit the hairline that you actually get. It's mental.
Yeah, and that's what we've both ended up with, thanks to Grow Clinics, who are leading the way in hair loss treatments in Australia and New Zealand, and they offer the most refined hair transplant technique available. Natural results are guaranteed.
And can I just say, I'm using a ring light for those of you that can't see it, and I never would have shined a light on my head.
No.
When I had my Twin Peaks.
Because the glare would have been too much off the top of your head. We wouldn't have been able to see you.
Sorry, Dion, what are you saying? I can't hear you over your forehead.
So look, they've got clinics all over the shop. Brisbane, Gold Coast, Melbourne, Sydney and Perth. It's the ultimate hair growth experience where you're taken care of every step of the way. And also, if you're not keen to go down the transplant route, although you should, and they do payment plans and stuff like that to make it easier on the hip pocket, they also have other hair loss solutions. So if you're not quite ready for it yet, you can go and check them out as well. So go and check out the website, growclinics.com.au/Brown Park to book a free,
Sorry, what was that?
Free consultation or for more information.
Brown Park.
When you're telling this story, so just when I was 19 or 20, I was driving this soft top four-wheel drive down the Tweed Heads bypass. I was doing 110 Ks down the highway, and I'd worked all night and I fell asleep behind the wheel. And I woke up briefly and saw roadworks happening in front of me. And I swerved this four-wheel drive with no roof on it. And it rolled, I think about 6 or 7 times through a median strip and came to a rest on the northbound lane of the Tweed Heads bypass. And hearing this story now, just, I want to say grateful that I managed to walk away from that. And we talk about sliding moments. What if you left a little bit earlier? What if I was going a little bit slower? What if I was going a little bit faster? But the point where I swerved and rolled was in like a 300-meter stretch where there was no trees in that median strip. So this four-wheel drive had no roof on it, and I'm rolling, vividly remembering that I'm in a serious incident here, and I'm rolling, and I just know. So I had the steering wheel. I just can vividly remember myself going over and over and over and over. And it came to a stop and all these people come running over. I unclip myself and I walk away. And the only thing I was concerned about was that my surfboard got thrown out of the four-wheel drive 200 meters back. So moment of gratefulness for me that I managed to walk away from that in that moment when you lived a similar experience and one of the worst things that could happen has happened.
That is amazing, particularly because you're in a soft top too.
Yeah, I had no roof. Whoa. Yeah. And I did have my dad in the car. So, and me being stupid when I was that age, when I had my surfboard in the car, the passenger couldn't wear the seatbelt, and I just dropped my dad off at the airport. So I kept thinking, lucky if that had happened on the way to the airport, life would have been changed forever. So anyway,
the interesting thing that you say about that moment in time, and there's 2 things that I know about your story, and one is the last thing you remember before the accident. Can you tell people what that is?
Well, so the very last thing, the very, very last thing that I have done standing up was to give my mum a hug.
Oh.
That is I gave her this big bear hug because she's shorter than me. And I gave her this big hug, and then I jumped in the car. That was it. Like I literally took a few steps, got in the car, and that was the very last thing I did standing up.
And the other thing is that you say to this date, it was what happened in that car was the greatest moment of your life.
Yeah. And I think, I don't think it happened to me. I think it happened for me, because it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, right? It is, I mean, it's been over 12 years now, and particularly in the first part of those 12 years, me and my mom, like we struggled. There were so many struggles.
Now you had to go back to Sri Lanka, didn't you?
Yeah.
And this is in your book, and you actually detail what happened in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Quite vividly.
So how long after the accident did you have to, or did you go back to Sri Lanka?
We went pretty soon after I was discharged from the hospital because it was hard, right? There was no NDIS then. We didn't have much support. We were really struggling, and things got much worse after that, where Mum and I didn't know where we were going to live the next day. We didn't have any money. There were days when I didn't eat. There were days when I didn't I realized recently there was a period of time where I didn't own a pair of shoes. When I got discharged from the hospital, they made me these pair of fluffy, foot covers to avoid wounds. And I was just wearing those for the longest time. But things were hard. But, we've come out of it and we've come so far. And today, I think I hope that I'm a better person for it. And I hope that, I met so many amazing people that I have in my life. I've had experiences and I am who I am today because of it. So I think now, when it first happened, I would have done anything to have my old life back. But now I wouldn't trade my life for the world, and I'm grateful for it.
Well, you're changing lives all around you, brother,
Yeah.
and you inspire anyone you touch.
Thank you. That's the other thing. If this whole journey can make a difference in a single person's life, I think that's totally worthwhile.
And it has, I know, because you've done work with sporting teams. You're a great speaker. And when you read the reviews of some of the speeches that you've given, people walk away changed because of it. So you are definitely changing lives. And people are going to go and pick up the book and have a look and read more about your overall story, because it's extraordinary. And I mean, we could sit here and talk to you for the next 2 hours about your life. It's insane. But being a doctor, and I want to have some fun for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I've always heard that hospitals have an arse box, and I just want to confirm whether this is true or not. And
What's
this
an
is
arse box?
It's a box where the doctors and nurses put in notes of people that have come into the hospital with things jammed up their ass.
Yeah,
is this true? We have a great doctor. He's not going to lie. I have to ask this question.
Are you asking this because you want to be careful what you insert?
No, because I know that some do. Because I've been friends with nurses and doctors, and they've gone, everybody has a story.
I know we don't have an ass box. We don't have an ass box, but there's never a shortage of, I suppose, surprise at what
people slip on.
Yeah, well, I mean, the variety of foreign bodies that can be inserted into various orifices is it's I think it's never, sometimes I get this.
I've thrown you, haven't I? I'm really sorry.
I feel like we hit a real new low on this podcast. I just feel like we just went low.
No, it's a great question, because we go to work and all our colleagues, right, nursing, medical, we're sometimes just this is the only job where you'll come across these situations. So.
Yeah. Can you give us one object? Don't say the person, don't say who it was, because you can't, because you're a doctor. Or the randomest object that you have seen inserted into an orifice.
Oh my God.
Okay. Yeah, no, I would, but I think I got to be
I think that's yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I'll tell you the one that I've heard.
Yep. Go for it.
A Rexona can.
I've heard in exclamation marks.
No. A Rexona can.
That is not out of the realm of possibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I always have this mental vision of the person going, Ksh.
But
see, never have I had that mental vision. Never have I had that mental vision. So you need to see a counsellor, brother.
But you know what though? In terms of objects, I can tell you that is probably the most conservative object.
Wow. Okay. The arse box lives. Dinesh Palipana, you are very gracious with your time. And thank you for humouring me through the arse box, because I wanted to know. And your book is stronger, and your life is extraordinary. And like Dion was saying before, I think anybody that you touch with your story is going to walk away changed. And I'm glad you could share it with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's it's a privilege, and I'm just super grateful for these moments, and I'm super grateful for you and your time, and our mutual friend Emily Jade.
Yes,
her friendship and connecting us. And who knows, maybe in the future we can have Christo and Dinesh with the Askbox podcast.
Coming soon. Coming soon.
Yeah.
There we go.
Dinesh Palipana OAM, thank you very much for joining us on the Brown Park podcast. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you, man.
Holy crap.
What an amazing human, right?
Just moment of absolute gratitude that him and I were in similar accidents, and yet I'm here living my life.
And he is living his life, but in a completely different manner, but one in which he is absolutely happy and content with every single day. Everybody that comes across him says his bedside manner is just incredible.
I'll bet.
And he's a great doctor.
And I see he's started up Doctors with Disabilities, because I know part of his story was he finished his medical degree and then was a graduate without a job for a very long time. So he's not only inspiring people to see the great things in life, he's helping others that are in similar situations to him. So commendable that life is what you make it.
Yeah. And his book is called Stronger. And look, he goes into a lot more detail. Disappointingly, though, not one mention of the arse box in his book at all.
I'm going to say, does he mention the arse book? Because no, I think that's a very selective audience.
I dare say that will be the sequel coming out soon. Look, if you want to find him, go and search him on socials. His details are in the show notes to this podcast, as they always are. We always put them there. Please go and support him and read the book. That's all I can say. Thanks to our sponsors, Grow Clinics, for their continued support of this podcast, although I think after the Ask Box they might be reconsidering. And maybe
that's where they can take the hair from. I don't know.
And we will see you next time on the Brown Park podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Or maybe you won't now. But
yeah.
The Brown Park podcast.
New episode next Monday.